Calling the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of Wednesday, August 18th, 2021, 7 p.m. Call to order. And first thing we'll do is introduction of commission members.
Mike Clayton.
Doug Regaller.
John Emery.
Jens Dancer.
Okay. Okay, the Planning and Zoning Commission is an independent advisory body of the Ames City Council. Planning and Zoning Commission members are volunteers of the community and not part of the city administration. The commission is responsible for the preparation and adoption of the official comprehensive plan of the city and gives advice and recommendations on matters involving amendments to the zoning ordinance and the historic preservation ordinance and guidelines, subdivisions, annexations, master plans, and major site development plans, and developments within the Ames urban fringe areas. As an advisory commission, We welcome all comments and questions. We make our recommendations based on codes, the facts presented, and input from the public. If the proceedings become lengthy, we may ask the comments be focused on new information not previously presented. You may speak only once on an agenda item. If you wish to speak, please fill out a speaker information card and present it to the recording secretary. We ask that you come to the microphone to speak so that all comments may be recorded. Please state your name, address for the record prior to making any comments. The order of proceedings for each item on the agenda will be as follows. City staff will present the staff report regarding the agenda item. Commission members will have the opportunity to ask questions of city staff. The applicant will be invited to make a statement regarding the request. Commission members will have an opportunity to ask questions of the applicant. Members of the audience will be invited to come forward to offer comments and questions. Once the public comment is closed, city staff and the applicant will have an opportunity for concluding remarks. The commission will discuss the application based on all presentations and any comments given and come to the recommendation for the city council. The discussion may include further questions of staff, city staff, and the applicant for clarifications. With that, we'll move to the first item on the agenda, the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So approved. Next item on the agenda, approval of the minutes of August 4th, 2021. Any discussions or additions or corrections?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody objecting, say nay. There are no nays, so approved. Item number 5, the public forum. This is for anything that is not on the agenda tonight. Do we have anything for the public forum? Seeing none, move on to item number 6. And I'll butcher this name for sure. The Hong annexation. That's correct? I did pretty good then. Let's see.
Go ahead.
Need the presentator for the annexation.
Yep. Thank you very much. For those who don't know me, I'm Justin Moore. I'm one of the planners in the planning department. I'm the case planner for the annexation. This request is for property that you see indicated there. It's actually the larger piece of property is was the original applicant. And this is for an 80/20 annexation of land that is located along North 500th Avenue. This includes land at 768 North 500th and 800 North 500th, as you can see there on the map. The annexation was submitted earlier this summer for the Huang property indicated there. It did go to City Council for the initial referral, and City Council did direct staff to do an 80/20 annexation to include additional properties for more uniform boundaries for the city limits. I'll talk just briefly here about the area and some of the pertinent things to know. So the total area is approximately 33.18 acres. The property, again, is located there, as you can see, just west of the existing Ames city limits and abuts the city limits on the south side of the property to the city of Ames, where the Sunset Ridge subdivision is there that you can see to the immediate south. The non-consenting properties, there are 3 parcels, and that consists of 2 owners of those parcels. The owners are David Junk, who owns approximately 0.6 of an acre, and Richard Hall and Rena Hall, who own approximately 4 acres there. Again, these properties right here on either side of this piece, right along North 500th Avenue. The non-consenting parcels in this case represent around 13.8% of the original annexation request. In this particular case, given that it is an 80-20 annexation, after City Council holds their public hearing, this will need to go to the State City Development Board for their consideration and approval. The property along the western edge with North 500th, that is the boundary of where Xenia Rural Water Service comes to. Anything east of North 500th here is not within Xenia Rural Water territory. So there are no buyout issues that are necessary for the property. The two existing properties that are built on with the residential structures, those are served by Xenia, and they will continue to be served by Xenia once annexed. The land use right now is agricultural. The two non-consenting properties do have individual single-family homes with some scattered outbuildings on them. And the original applicant is all row crop, as you can see there. We have not received a conceptual development plan yet. The developer has indicated to us that they plan to do single-family homes. That is their intent on this property. The access to the property, currently there are 2 stub streets from the Sunset Ridge subdivision to the south. They are Elston Avenue there, and then also Wilder Avenue there, which can easily connect to any future development layout. Also to the west, there is enough room, enough land to create an access to North 500th Street for circulation. In this particular case, this land use right now outside of the city is called urban residential. That is the land use in the fringe that is set aside for first priority for annexation or immediate annexation. So there is no land use change that is required ahead of this annexation. So the actual annexation itself can proceed. Staff did do, as far as our outreach and part of the state mandated process, we did invite the Washington Township trustees and the Story County Board of Supervisors for a consultation meeting that occurred yesterday. And that was attended by the Story County planning director. No one else attended the meeting. We did have an email inquiry from one of the trustees just with a couple questions regarding the process. So other than that, we have received, as of the writing of the report anyway, no additional comments or questions from anyone at this time. With that, if anyone has any additional questions, I can certainly answer them now.
With this proposed annexation, don't we have to go to agricultural?
So when the land comes into the city, it immediately is zoned agricultural. There has to be then a rezoning process for any subsequent development after that.
And then on the for the state, we, as I understand it, we can't have islands.
That's correct.
Okay, and so the junk property would have to be included. Why is the Hall property included?
The junk and Hall property actually on their own would not create islands. The city council chose to include those so that the boundary of the city along North 500th was more uniform. The original application was only for the Huang property.
Could you describe any reasons why the property owners are non-consenting? Did they provide any feedback during the process?
So we did outreach to the surrounding property owners when the application initially came in. That was at the direction of city council before the city council actually initiated anything. We did hear back from a couple of them. The property here to the north, this larger piece, and then also the junk property. So we did hear back from both of those owners. They did indicate that at this time they were not interested in joining the city. The main reasoning was simply because they preferred to stay in the county for their own reasons.
So if annexed, is there any chance that those property owners would have to change have to sell their properties to the city or anything like that? That's not what this is.
No, they would maintain ownership. They simply come within the jurisdiction or the city limits of the city of Ames. Those properties will automatically be zoned agricultural. And so the homes that are on those properties, the buildings can maintain, can stay. And so there are, of course, basic city ordinances that they would become subject to, but annexation does not force a sale or any of that type of thing.
So the application for future development would still strictly be on the Huang property then?
The applicant has indicated that that's the intent, is for the Huang property to be developed.
Okay.
Annexation goes west to the center line of 500th Street.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
How much further, excuse me, how much further north can we go? Isn't there infrastructure limitations, if I remember right?
Ontario Street is just labeled at the very top of that map. That would connect up with where existing city limits of the city is. And then the railroad tracks are to north of that. So there isn't really more potential north of Ontario.
So if I'm understanding correctly, the Huang property would then be serviced by Ames Water, but then the other two properties would continue to be maintained with Zinnia. Is that correct?
If they're served by Xenia, they stay with Xenia. If they're on a well, they can stay on a well. If once city water mains are deployed through the subdivision of the Hong property and they want to connect to a city water main at their cost, that would be up to them and whether they're on a well or under a Xenia contract.
If they stay under Xenia, but at some time in the future, one of them says, I think I'm going to sell my property and retire in Florida or whatever. If it was developed then into, it looks like, probably a few lots anyway, additional lots, would the new lots have to go into the city water then, or would they still be with Xenia?
It's a complicated answer depending on their contract with Xenia. I can't answer something like
Okay.
that.
And they'll stay on septic as long as they wish.
No, yes and no. So as long as you have an operating septic system and you don't need to replace it, you get to continue to do that. But under state law, if there's a city sanitary sewer main within 200 feet of your home and you have to replace your septic, then you must connect to the city sanitary sewer system. You can't replace your septic. As long as it's in good working order and you're just continue to operate it, that's fine. It's under state law. There's certain triggers through the county that would trigger sanitary sewer hookups.
And if they, I don't know if they have it or not, but if they have an outhouse, they can still use that.
I am not aware of any municipal code ordinances related to that issue.
I know that inside the city, you can't have an outhouse.
I'm just not familiar with that issue. It hasn't come up in an annexation question before.
Is there a reason
Not in
why?
this century anyway.
Is there a reason why one half of it is Midland Power and the other half is Ames Electric? The entire property can't be serviced by Ames Electric.
It's one of those jurisdictional things that you can't control. It's not
It's
a
like it
it's
just
not a
kinda comes
capacity.
right
Not a
down the middle of
capacity.
it.
It's like a school district boundary. Electric districts are the same thing. They just don't change. They're set in stone by the state.
Okay.
They don't move.
Okay.
I know inside the city of Ames, it is serviced by a couple different,
We have 4 electric providers in the city.
yes.
So that's not a unique thing then, I guess.
No, and it's
I hadn't
something we can,
experienced that.
and something we can't control.
Okay.
questions for? Okay. Move on to members of the audience, if they wish to speak. No. Okay, closing the public comment. Any of the city staff and applicant have any further comments?
Don't think so.
Nope.
Then on this, the alternatives. The alternative 2 is the one that would just do the Hong property, correct? Okay.
I guess I would point out that there are already other properties in the area that seem to outcrop within the city or within the area. Although it's not already a uniform area, I already see properties that to the south and, well, not really to the west, but there are other properties that are not quite a square line. So I do see that this would make it more uniform, but it's not like it would be a unique section. Would be my only comment.
Isn't the Ames city limits goes right up to the junk property?
On the south, yes.
Yes. So that part is squared up in the city boundaries.
So everything to the south of the Hong boundary down to Lincoln Way is uniformly in the city as of Monday,
That other property.
when the
down
other annexation was approved by the state and finalized this recently.
Okay, open for
Motion.
no, I can't even think of the word.
Motion.
Motion, thank you. Open for motions. I move that we accept alternative number 2. The Planning and Zoning Commission can recommend that the city council approve 100% voluntary annexation of only the petitioner's parcel and abutting right-of-way totaling 28.58 acres for the property located immediately west of the Ames corporate limits and extending westward to the Boone County line along North 500th Avenue in Washington Township, Story County, Iowa, by finding that the proposed annexation is consistent with the land use policy plan and urban fringe plan. Entertain a second.
I second that motion. I'd motion for alternative 2.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay. You said?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion is so approved.
I didn't want it to get hung up.
Alternative number 2. Okay, the next item on the agenda, zoning text amendment for downtown parking.
All right. So we're talking about a text amendment that affects 2 zoning districts in the city, the Downtown Service Center and the Campus Town Service Center. Although they're 2 distinct zoning districts with different standards, they have a common parking standard for all uses between the 2 districts, which is different from everywhere else in the city. And that's because of stated goals for the city to think of these as urban cores and to have reduced parking requirements. Specifically tonight, we're talking about a request to modify the theater parking requirement. So it's in a list of theaters, arenas, and stadiums. And we currently require in the downtown and the campus town area to provide parking on site at a rate of 1 space for every 4 seats. There's a minimum that you also have to have. Citywide, we only require 1 per 5. So it's a little funky that we require more parking, even if you didn't change anything else, that you have more parking required in an urban area than you do in a suburban commercial area, which has more space for parking. So staff is moving forward at the initiation of City Council. The council initiated this as a response to a request from the Nelson family, directly related to the Tribune building just across down the street here in downtown. As staff has assessed this, we looked at the availability of public parking in the area, both in downtown and in Campus Town. Our conclusion was that this type of use could easily be absorbed into the public parking supply and not be disruptive to the surroundings. Secondly, we don't believe that if we are going to support reuse of historic buildings, having this type of parking requirement is productive. Obviously, when you have a 100% utilization of a lot, you have no way of adding parking to your site without demolishing it. I don't think we're in it. In many cases, we're not interested in demolition of historic buildings. So if we want to extend life of buildings, we have to give somewhere, and staff is comfortable for this use that parking can be reduced in both areas. So we gave some other options. For the most part, you could think of Campus Town and downtown differently. They are different in how they operate, even though they are both considered urban cores and commercial centers for the city. The goal here is for small theaters. I can't imagine how you see a commercial Cineplex show up and think they're buying a square block and have 0 parking for a 16-screen megaplex. So I don't feel like that's a real concern that we should have. I think what we should be really focused on is how do we give life to existing buildings, which in our inventory of existing buildings, Ames Tribune building is unique in that it has a high volume space in the rear that suits doing a small theater. But even if that wasn't the case, you just had a regular 2-story building, they're generally pretty small in Campus Town and downtown. So the idea that you could have a very large venue with 500 seats or something like that seems very remote. And as we said in the report, you can never forecast exactly what somebody would redevelop a site with, but in our eyes, it seems like we're really focused on small venues as the most likely entity or use that would want to take advantage of this change. So we're recommending that we can change it for both Campus Town and downtown and eliminate the standard in its entirety and expect that public parking would satisfy the need for the area.
Okay, commission members, any questions for Mr. Kelly?
Is it fair to say that that this is kind of a case-by-case basis as applicants come forward
Nope.
with a rezoning request for a new use in a building?
Nope, this is just universally applied to any use that comes through. There's no case-by-case review. So it's just a general zoning standard, applies to anybody that asks for it. There's no public board review. There's no council review after it's adopted. It's just administered through planning and zoning review and building code.
But this change to the text amendment is a case-by-case basis at this point. No.
I'm not sure how that would apply. So case by case to me would mean that if someone came in and wanted to do the use, they're asking for permission every time there's a desire to do the use. This would just set it up to be okay for everybody. You don't have to ask permission. It's not a variance. It's not a special use permit. It's not a one-off. It's just the standard.
Yep.
And I know you cited the last time we dealt with parking for the parking lot over there in the grounds here, the 2019 investigation of parking,
Yeah.
and there's plenty of parking downtown.
Yeah, I think we quoted that in the study and it inserted the peak hour map. So
Yeah.
again, we're really focused on this particular use does not have a 1 o'clock peak hour demand, which is the Main Street peak hour of utilization. And so for us, I think we quoted that at 6 p.m. when we did that survey, only 45% of the parking spaces downtown were occupied at 6 p.m. And we quoted that in downtown, there's almost 1,200 parking spaces. So to us, there's a ample ability to absorb a couple hundred people and it wouldn't be 200 people driving. You wouldn't expect. You would think in a 200 seat theater that you're at worst half of them are driving with 2 people in a car. So we believe you could definitely accommodate this use.
I did the math. I think there's over 650 spots available at 6 p.m. with the 45%. So I think there's plenty of parking for a small
And
theater in town. So
And so the study itself, I mean, it's 2 years old, but it was actually done at the right time, pre-COVID,
yeah,
just normal time of year. It was kind of just your normal year, normal season when we did the parking inventory study. There wasn't any unique attributes out there that would say we undercounted it or even overcounted it for some other reason. So it's a pretty good sense of your average environment out there. It doesn't deal with if you got Main Street closed and you're holding a concert on the street. Those things are never factored into parking studies. But average use, I think downtown has more than enough space for evening use.
Okay, do we have any members of the audience that would like to come forward and offer comments and questions?
Sorry, I inhaled something on the way in the building.
Up podium.
There, oh, okay. Hi, I'm Steve Peters, resident of Ames, 1308 Kenyon Circle. I own a company called Venue Works. We manage about 45 venues nationally, mostly under contract with cities, universities, nonprofits. These venues range from theaters to arenas to convention centers. When I saw in the Ames Tribune a story 3 or 4 months ago about the Nelson family buying the Tribune building, I got intrigued. I called them. We walked through. My initial interest was in moving my offices in there. But then once I got into it and looked at it, I thought, my gosh, there's room here for so much more. So we've been working toward a plan to put an event center, small theater, in the facilities. So the building sort of breaks down into 3 segments. There's that front red brick building that you see, that's sort of a lobby and offices upstairs. Then there's sort of a middle section of the building that has ceilings that are about 16 feet high. That'll be lobby space, and there'll be a bar service in there, and then and room for a certain amount of dining. And then really the event space is the big box you see on the back of it, which was a warehouse for the newspaper. There we can put plus or minus 200 seats on risers and put a stage in front of it and have a theater. Our intentions are that it'd be a theater for concerts, small theater shows, and comedians. We'd also be able to do weddings, wedding receptions, parties, banquets in there to some degree. We will also have a full kitchen in the facility to do food service. It is programming that we really draw from 2 different elements. We have a small theater in Burnsville that books a lot of small shows, a black box theater that seats about 180 that we run. It's ironically, it's called the Ames Center. And so shows like Triple Espresso, Church Basement Ladies, things like that, little casts of 3 or 4 or 5 people that we run in there like for a weekend or 2 at a time. And then the concerts I'm talking about are more likely to be concerts that are tribute bands. And besides Venue Works, I'm also a partner in the ownership of the Chanhassen Dinner Theater, southwestern suburb of Minneapolis. And there in our Fireside Theater, we're sort of the tribute band capital of the Twin Cities. And a lot of those tribute bands are based in Minneapolis. So we have that booking capability to bring those bands here. We're really going to be playing to a demographic that's probably 50 plus in age. And then, like I said, weddings, and you'd be able to do 200 people in there to and serve them food and have a nice reception for your wedding or banquet or city business function of any sort. So that's the plan. And there's 18 spaces in a lot that already goes with the building. So we have those spaces to begin with anyway. And so we're looking at, we can look at it out there now. There's Wednesday night in downtown Ames and nothing's happening. We think we can bring people to downtown Ames 3 and 4 nights a week year round. And we'd like to try to do that.
Go ahead.
One of the alternatives before us is for a maximum seating capacity of 250 seats.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that that would be a fair, like, high end of what you're
Yes.
planning for?
Yes.
Okay.
And I guess this is a question, I guess, for Kelly and you. You're not planning to do anything to the outside facade facing this 5th Street, are you?
No, the facade of the brick is, we're going to fix it up. We're going to paint up around the windows and stuff. We'll probably put a solid wooden door. Are we talking about a wooden door in the front? I think we're going to make it look better, but we're going to try to stick to that, to the heritage of the building.
They'd have to ask for some kind of, it's a historic building, no?
It's not a regulated historic building.
It is?
It is not a regulated historic building, so they can do what they want to it.
We will have some signage. So where it says Tribune Now, we'll have a lighted sign we're going to call it News on 5th. And so there'll be a sign in there. There'll probably be a message center on the front. There would be something of a marquee to tell you what's coming up. It'll just be flat against the wall. There won't be anything protruding from the building. It has a setback far enough that you can see it and read it fine from the street.
So it could have like a Prince tribute band.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
It's wife.
If you go to chanhassendinnertheater.com and look at the kind of things they have coming into their concert schedule, I mean, it's exactly those sorts of bands.
Any other questions for the city? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, this time sorry.
Good evening. I'm Chris Nelson, 3210 Tupelo Circle here in Ames. I'd like to thank staff for their work on this so far. Just to kind of give you at least some of my perspective on this specific thing. Steve talked about some of the things that would be in there, the restaurant. We could open up a 200-seat restaurant and not have a parking requirement. We could open up we can open up a 400-person bar and not have a parking requirement. So it's specifically the theater component of this project that creates the parking issue. So we're not really adding any density beyond what we could do in a different type of project or making it more dense than it already is. And so it's really kind of truing up that parking requirement with that type of venue, with the already existing parking requirements in downtown. So it like Steve said, it's something I think that'll bring a lot of energy and vibrancy to downtown. So the parking requirement is what's standing in the way of us getting going on the project right now. So.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. Kelly, this won't open up a Pandora's box later for us, will it? Parking that you can foresee?
I just can't see it with the existing conditions and of buildings that are out there, how it could really multiply into some substantial issue. And I think our number one, just as Mr. Nelson said, you have a 600 persons dining area for a restaurant, no parking required. So how is this use really different when we're trying to encourage nightlife and entertainment uses to exist down here? I think that's kind of probably if we required parking for other similar uses, I think it'd be a different conversation, but we don't. So why is this one different?
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the commission? At this time, I would entertain a motion.
I'll go ahead and recommend alternative one, that the city council adopt changes to remove all parking requirements for auditoriums, theaters, stadiums, and arenas within the downtown service center and campus town service center zoning districts.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay, I would motion for alternative 3. I say it now? Or, yes,
Okay.
that's okay.
The motion passes. Alternative number 1. Okay,
Okay, so this will go before the city council as an ordinance before it's approved.
okay. Commission comments for today. Anything
No comments.
None?
in here?
No.
Okay, how about staff comments?
Just a heads up, hopefully on Tuesday night, the 24th, council will accept the draft to be made public for Ames Plan 2040. So if that happens, then we'll get everything online and we'll have about a 5-week period where we publicize it and have some opportunities for people to review the plan and to provide comments before we start the formal approval process. So what that means is that if that happens next Tuesday, at least one of your meetings in September, I will give you guys the plan as soon as it's ready to be distributed. So you'll have it a couple of weeks before we ever have a meeting. But at least one, if not both meetings, we'll probably have you walk through it, ask questions, and if you have any particular comments to forward to council, you can make those kinds of motions as well. At the same time, you're going to be part of the actual approval process. So that the thought here is that in September, we're getting additional public comment. Council can then choose if they want to make any adjustments from that input before we start the actual public hearing process to formally approve the plan, which then would happen in, we'll say, November and December, if all things go according to plan.
Do you expect a bigger audience?
Before a public hearing, I doubt it. I don't know. I mean, it's been a very transparent process and it's been a little elongated, but everything that council has given direction on has been on TV. So it's not like it's been steering committees and conference rooms or anything making decisions. So everything's been pretty transparent to this point. Obviously, there's details. So there are going to be people that are interested in details or may be affected by one land use designation or another on the map and make those kinds of very specific comments. But, for the most part, there's nothing new. The West, the North, and the South, and the East were all chosen a year and a half ago to be all shown as growth areas. That's what's in the plan. So those kinds of things aren't probably going to be redone. It's just going to be those details about how are infill options described. Are these areas that we call redirection areas, meaning someday they are expected to redevelop if they don't happen now, but sometime in the life of the plan. Some of those details are probably the things that people haven't contemplated much yet, haven't really seen the policies that support that. That's what I'm guessing people will talk about, but could have a full room, could have crickets, just, I don't know. Because you're gonna be able to we'll take comment from anybody anyway. You don't have to come to the commission for us to hear your comment. I mean, you're gonna be able to comment through our online tools, send us emails, do whatever you want. So I don't know. In September, I'd say probably not, maybe during the hearing process.
Okay, anybody have anything else? Okay, at this time, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move adjournment.
Second.
All those in favor? I guess we're adjourned. We don't have to have a motion.